Hello, my name is Joanna Wigboldy. I am on the grants team and I am joined by Cindy DeBoer, who is also on the grants team. And we want to welcome you to this webinar, What Every Project Director Needs to Know. It was a joy to worship together across space just about an hour ago. And now we're going to jump today for the rest of the day into the things that you need to know to administer your grant over the next year. So this webinar is for those project directors and grants team members who are beginning their project. So this year that's Worshiping Communities 2020 grant recipients. And during this webinar, you will be receiving some of the information you need to administer your grant over the next year. During the first part of the webinar, I'm going to be giving you a lot of information, but you can use the Q&A feature down at the bottom of your screen. It has two little thought bubbles as an icon to put your questions in. You can put them in that feature throughout. It may be that when you put a question in, it will get answered later in the webinar, but we will have a time at the end where I'll take a look at those questions and do my best to answer all the questions that you bring today. So I'd like to get started by looking at the Foundant Grant Management System. This is the online grant management system that project directors you have already used to submit your proposal, to submit your one-page summary for this event, and to submit your letter of agreement, which is your contract. But you're going to continue using this system. And so I just want to give you a quick look at it. So let me share my screen here so you can see it. I'm going to start with the login page. So this is where you'll go the first, at the beginning of every time every session on the online grant management system. Your email address is your username and your password is a unique password that you created. But if you ever forget your password, which is quite plausible given that there are actually long periods of time between when you access this system, you can just use this forgot your password link to quickly and easily reset your password. Now, when you log in, you will see your applicant dashboard. Now, I'm going to show you the applicant dashboard for current grantee Durham Cares. Reynolds Chapman, the project director, gave me permission to show you his dashboard so that you can see what a Worshiping Communities 2020 dashboard looks like. So you can see that the main thing, well, above this up here is the address of the project director and the contact information for the project director and the organization, but I'm going to leave those hidden for Reynolds privacy. But then once you scroll down just a bit, you have this section with that lists the follow-up forms that you will be completing throughout the year. You can see that you've already completed the one-page summary and the letter of agreement, and you can view those by clicking right over here. And then the next follow-up form that you will be completing in grant management system is the mid-year report. Now that's not due until December 1, but you can use this edit button right here to access that right now. And I would recommend taking a look at that fairly soon so you know what are the questions you're going to need to answer at that time. And as you start implementing your project, you can see, or you can have in mind how you're going to answer those questions. And you can even put notes in there as you go. If you have a project September 1, let's say, and you just want to jump in September 2 and put a few notes in there, it will save that. And then when you go back, you can, add more information in, late November and, clean it up a little and send it in. Then after that, the next follow-up forms are really in preparation for next year's grant event. We hope that will be in person, but we don't really know. So one thing that might be added to this is a form for your travel, to arrange your travel if we were to meet in person. When we gather on Calvin University's campus, the Worship Institute pays for all of your travel, your housing, your food, and we would need certain information to book your travel. And so that might be an additional form that you would find added here. But your one-page summary for the second grants event is very similar to the one you filled out for this grants event. The questions are a little bit different, right? Focused on what you've learned and looking back, but a similar length. It's meant to be not take much time, be fairly simple. The poster upload is due a couple weeks after that. And we'll get into that a little bit more later, into the content of that. And then your final report is due July 15, 2021. Now, I want to alert you to a little quirk of the grant management system that we don't like, but we can't change. And that is that you can only view one follow-up form at a time. So you can see that you're able to click and view the mid-year report right now, that the form for that, but you can't, there's no way for you to view the one-page summary. But as soon as that mid-year report is submitted and completed, and that completed step happens on our end, then your one-page summary form is available to you. Now, when that becomes tricky is with these two May dates that are only a few weeks apart. So you're going to need to make sure that you do complete that one-page summary form in a timely fashion, because that's going to be necessary to open the grants event poster upload form. One thing you will need to submit with your mid-year and final report is a budget form. Now, it's important that you use the budget form that matches the one that you submitted with your proposal. So it looks the same. It's our form that's in an Excel spreadsheet. So we have put a file in each of your dashboards that has the form that you can draw upon. So right here, you can see that this is a link. And when you click on that, it's going to open your Excel spreadsheet, and it's going to have your approved budget exactly as you submitted it. And then it has a column where you can insert your expenditures. So I would download that right now and start tracking your expenditures on that. At 3 o'clock Eastern time, you'll all be part of an additional webinar led by Satrina, who is going to teach you how to submit a budget revision. And she's going to walk through exactly how you fill out this form. So it's really important that you attend that. And it might even help to have this form open while you do that. One other quick thing I want to show you here. Each of you has an individual, or each organization has its own grant number. Now you can find the grant number right here. Now each of you watching now have your grant number starts with WC, which stands for Worship and Communities. That's opposed to Teacher Scholars, who start with TS. And then 20 is the year. And then these last two digits are what's unique to each of you. So, all the proposals just were numbered in order, and this is the number that you got. But we ask that you include that number on all of your communication with us. That is because when we get an email from you, we remember your face and we remember the conversations that we had with you. But that extra step of remembering the name of your organization and exactly, which group you go with, we just don't want to make any mistakes. So When you include that, then we can very quickly make the connection to what organization you're part of, and file your communication appropriately and see all the communication that you have sent us in one spot. So that is everything I want to show you in the grant management system. So I am going to move over to my PowerPoint. Let me just take a quick look and make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, I do want to emphasize that only the project director can access the grant management system, or only the project director can access those follow-up forms. They're assigned to a person. So if your organization changes the project director, you really need to tell us, because we are going to keep communicating with the project director. That's the main person we communicate with. And if we're communicating to the wrong person, then things get missed, especially as we approach the grants event. But also, if your project director can't access these forms, then we also have a problem. So when you sent in your letter of agreement, your project director signed that. They signed that contract. And it's important that if there's a different project director, we have them sign on to that same information. So it's really important that you let us know if you are going to change the project director. And it's important, it's now your responsibility as the current project director to communicate all of these things to the next project director. Now this will be a little bit easier because we are actually going to put this webinar on our website after the grants event. So I know I'm going through a lot of things really quickly, but you'll be able to watch this again later and review those things if you're feeling like it's going a little too fast today. So now I would like to walk through the things that you need to know to implement your grant well. So just again, we use the Foundant Grants Management System for all of our follow-up forms. This is the link right here that you will use to access that. I would recommend putting that in your bookmarks so that it's easy to find. Again, there's going to be long periods of time between when you access this, and you don't want to be hunting all over trying to find that link again. So, grab this when we post it online, and put it in your bookmarks so that you can easily find it over the next year. Again, memorize your grant number. You are all WC20s, and put it in the subject line of all the emails that you send to us. Now, about emails, you will be getting emails from 2 different email addresses. This first one listed here, Calvin Institute of Christian Worship Administrator at grantinterface.com. Those are just emails that we have sent to you out of the online grant management system. But when you hit reply to those, it goes right to our email box, worshipgrants@calvin.edu. We will also at times email you out of that email box. So no matter what, you can hit reply to one of our emails, and you will have, it will go to us at worshipgrants@calvin.edu. I see this question, can you send the link in an email? Yeah, maybe Cindy, could we see if we can do that in the evaluation form? We'll find a way to do that. Whoop, I just left share screen, didn't I? My bad. All right, let's go to your calendar then. Mark your calendar with these dates. I have already said all of these dates, except that one. So I just want to make sure that you mark your church calendar, put it in your Google Calendar, your iPhone. Don't let these dates slip by you, and don't let them sneak up on you. Now, because all of these follow-up forms are in the grant management system, you will get reminder emails about 2 weeks before they're due, just reminding you that they are due in 2 weeks. And then you'll also start getting nagging emails if you turn them in or if you haven't turned them in by the due date, you're going to start getting emails like, don't forget to turn that in, you didn't turn it in. The system is adept at nagging. So if you want to avoid that, you can turn them in on time. The other date that I want to point out to you is this one, the next year's grants event. Now, again, we don't know if that's going to be in person. We hope so, but we're not sure. We're not even going to try and predict that far ahead. But project directors, you are required to come to attend that grants event in whatever format it's in. So do mark those dates on your calendar now so that you have them blocked off for that time. It just does not want to advance the slide here. Let's see. All right, so those are some of the nuts and bolts of dates. Communication and collaboration are some of the key practices you want to have as part of your team and as part of implementing this project. We expect that this project was created by a team of people at your organization. And so you already have some experience collaborating together, and that you'll collaborate moving forward as you implement the project. You're also welcome to collaborate with us, and I may give you a little bit more detail about that. Communication with us at CICW, the Calvin Institute of Christian Worship, primarily the required communication is through Foundant. But we welcome hearing from you in other ways too, through our email, worshipgrants@calvin.edu. We love to celebrate with you. We love to hear how things are going. And that's really up to you, how much you want to communicate with us. Some years we don't hear, every year there are some projects we just don't hear anything from. And usually that's because things are going just fine and things are, moving along well. But we're happy to celebrate with you, to pray for you. So don't hesitate to communicate with us if you need help, or especially if you need to make some changes. And we'll talk about what that will look like in a couple of minutes. Communicate also with your team and your congregation or organization. The sooner you can start building buy-in in your congregation, the better. So use as any communication mode that is natural for your organization to communicate the goals of this project and how people can be involved. One of the main questions I get from grantees in the next month or two is usually, how can I build buy-in? So you can start now by communicating about the project, by celebrating, like use a celebratory tone. We were awarded this grant to do this project from the Calvin Institute of Christian Worship. Be excited about it, present it as an opportunity, and communicate it via email if that's natural for your group, your church. If it were my church, it would go in the weekly email for a couple weeks, and maybe reminders throughout the year. It would go in the bulletin, and then as different events happened, those things would be in the weekly bulletin, and then we'd probably send a unique email just explaining the grant project at the beginning of the year. But how your organization receives communication best, so take advantage of that. And then make sure you're communicating well with your team as well. This is not a one-person job. This is a group effort. And so everybody needs to be supporting each other and aware of what's going on and working together. And also you can communicate with each other. Usually when we gather together on Calvin's campus, you might start a conversation with someone over lunch And then, you know, that conversation continues while you walk to another building. And then, you know, there's some synergy there and you want to learn from someone, and, you know, you might contact each other after the event and keep learning from one another, bouncing ideas off one another. Those sort of informal opportunities for conversation, you know, they're not part of this digital mode, but we hope that you'll identify people that you want to follow up with perhaps after the learning roundtables tomorrow. You'll say, oh, that was really interesting, and I want to know more about this part of their project. And we hope to provide you a list of emails of everybody who attended, so you'll be able to follow up with them. You can always email us too and say, hey, I really want to follow up with that person. Can you give me their email? One other venue that we can do that is we can connect with each other is on a closed Facebook group that we moderate. You can join this Facebook group. You'll have to get permission to join the Facebook group. So you can request to join. And this is only people who have been on Vital Worship Grants teams within the last 5 years or so, plus CICW staff. So this is a great place where you can post pictures, you can celebrate, you can post prayer requests, and it's completely optional, but we have found it to be an encouraging way to connect with one another. When you email us at Worship Grants, all 4 of us here on the grants team, Cindy, Citrina, Kathy, and I, have access to the email worshipgrants@calvin.edu. So we'll all be able to see that email. So, you know, I have outlined down here the different questions that each of us answer, but you don't need to remember that. This is just for your information right now, because when you send an email to worshipgrants@calvin.edu, Kathy's going to be the one who takes a first look at that, and then she's going to delegate it out to one of us based on these focus areas. So there's no travel or reimbursements this year. So Cindy, I hope that means you have a more calm July than usual. But Cindy's going to be the person who handles most of the logistical questions. So Trina's going to handle anything that has to do with budgets. And, you know, that's why she's going to be doing this webinar on budget revisions at 3 o'clock, because all of your budget revisions, Kathy's going to funnel to her when they get sent to Worship Grants. So Trina and I are also the ones who are most familiar with the online grant management system. So when you have questions about that, that's going to go to one of us. Kathy is an expert in leadership. So if you have questions around leadership, she's going to respond to those. And then she and I respond to program questions based on availability, really. And then I will answer event questions. I don't really get very many of those event questions, but if we get them, those will come to me. Key leadership skills for this, this particular project, actually good key leadership skills in general. Organize. This is advice both for the project director and for the team. Organize people, organize resources, so that you have a good foundation moving forward. I don't think I'm going to say too much more about that. Delegate. This is a biggie, I think. I mentioned a couple minutes ago that this is not a job for one person. This project cannot be the project director's baby, really. It is the project director is leading a team. And so if the project director tries to do everything, they're going to get burned out, first of all. And second, you don't get very much buy-in from the congregation. The congregation or the organization, you know, you really want them to own the project. And a great way to do that is to delegate things to them. As you plan events or different kinds of activities, identify people in your congregation, either in your team, but delegate outside your team too. Give everybody a stake in this project. Because the more people feel like it's their project, the more they'll be involved, the better, and they'll just, the more it will form them and impact them. So delegate to your team and beyond. Plan ahead. So you all submitted a timeline. when you sent in the proposal, we know that that was a pre-COVID timeline. And so I'll talk about that in just a minute, but plan ahead. Let me be the one to tell you that September is 2 months away. So a lot of your projects start in September. There's like something big in September. And, if that's not the case for you, that's fine. But plan ahead. You're going to want to start planning for that now. And planning ahead lays a good foundation for adaptability later on. If you have a good plan, you can, it makes it easy to change. And evaluate. It's tempting to, at the end of sort of a big event or activity, to just kind of like, oh, we made it through, glad that's over. But evaluating how it went, things that went well and things that didn't, helps you look ahead to the next event and the next thing and say, we should do more of this, we should do less of this. Even things that don't go well provide you with data about, or with information about what works in your congregation and what doesn't. And so you can adjust moving forward based on that evaluation. I also want to acknowledge that the proposal you wrote is different. It was for a different world than we live in now, a world that wasn't in a global pandemic. And some of you have reached out already to ask how to adjust your project in light of that. Your project probably did not imagine online worship. It probably did not imagine social distancing, but yet now you have to think about those things moving forward. Gathering large groups of people isn't going to be an option in most places. So we recognize that there are going to be changes, and that adaptability is a huge part of leading a project. We welcome changes, and we know that that's going to be necessary for a lot of you. It actually happens a lot even when we're not in the COVID environment. Changes show us that you're being aware of sort of where the Holy Spirit is leading and what's going well. And there's a process for that. It's really the budget revision process. So you can make changes to your project as long as the project remains in as long as the changes remain within the overall goal of the project that was approved by the board, that's part of your contract. So we just recognize that that's going to be the case for a lot of you, and we encourage adaptability. I think I'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple slides too. One thing you need to be aware of is, we receive a grant from the Lilly Endowment, and then with some of that money, we then offer grants to worshiping communities and teacher scholars, you. But we need to acknowledge where our funds come from, and then in turn, you also need to acknowledge where your funds come from, particularly externally. So when you advertise any part of your grant, you need to include this exact wording on any posters, any web pages that are for events or activities that are part of your grant project. This wording can be found on our website, so just do a quick copy and paste, and that should make it nice and easy. It doesn't have to be a big part of the advertising. Tiny font at the bottom is fine, but that attribution needs to be there. For advertising that is external to your congregation, we need to approve that. So a poster or a press release, those things you need to send to us before releasing them. Send them to worshipgrants@calvin.edu. We'll take a quick look and give you the go-ahead or suggest any changes. That doesn't happen very often, but suggesting changes. But make sure you send those to us. And we don't expect you to include this on every single internal communication, but you probably should include it in at least the first one to acknowledge where the funds have come from. This is also part of your contract. So it's in the, this wording can be found in your letter of agreement, and it's one of the things you agree to when you submit that letter of agreement. Consulting and coaching. The grants team is more than happy to offer consulting and coaching to you. We know that you have made plans, and that plans are great, but sometimes things don't necessarily go according to plan. And sometimes that's in a good way, and sometimes that's in a not so good way. But we are experienced in coaching you through evaluating, okay, how can we move forward in light of this? Sometimes in the good way, that is looks like this. You had an event, and this little part of the event that you hosted that was sort of like a side, sort of peripheral to the goal, actually had a ton of energy around it, and people were really excited about it, and it still fits within the main goal of the grant. And you're like, well, you know, let's follow that energy. You know, if people weren't so interested in this, but they're super interested in this, you know, how can we follow this instead? So we can help you think through that, and often that requires a budget revision, and so you're going to go through that budget revision process to get permission for that. Sometimes that's a not so good thing that you need some coaching on. Boy, this event or this aspect of our proposal is really falling flat. Nobody's interested in it. What can we do? And we can help you think through that too, and think about, okay, what are some different and innovative ways that you could engage your congregation or organization and still meet the goals of your project. I hope that you'll hear from the 2019 Worshiping Communities grantees too about different ways that they've encountered this. That is often one of the encouraging parts of the grants event, hearing from people who have done this and then say like, well, this happened and we didn't really know what to do, but then we tried this and actually it was amazing. So we are just, the Holy Spirit works in these projects, and we are excited to follow the Holy Spirit's leading and see what that looks like. So when things don't go according to plan, let me just assure you, don't panic. Don't panic. Just give us a call and we will coach you through it. Frequently asked questions. Let's see if you guys have asked any of these already. Yeah, it would be great. I see we have a question. We've updated our website with resources from the grant. Yeah, if you could just stick that attribution somewhere subtle, it does, you know, we don't expect it to be front and center, but just somewhere at the bottom so that it can be, people can see that this is part of your grant project. All right, let's go back to frequently asked questions. Can we apply next year? No. We ask that you spend this year focused on your project. So proposals for the next round of grants are due January 10, 2021. Well, you are going to be in the middle of this grant project during that time. So wait until you finish this project. You will be eligible again January 10, 2022. And you are more than welcome to apply for a new project at that time. We do often find that these projects spark ideas for further projects, or even sometimes hearing about other people's projects at the grants event sparks different ideas for further projects. So we do invite you to apply again in the future, beginning 2022. Ooh, that's a tongue twister. 2022. Can we have an extension? No. We find that when we grant an extension, if we were to, we've done this once or twice and it just hasn't helped actually. So work towards getting everything done by July 15, 2021. Now, I do want to acknowledge that right at in the mid to end of the 2019 project year, there was this, everything changed because of COVID. And so we did offer 2019 worshiping communities grantees the option of extending their project through to November instead of July, just to give them an opportunity to finish well and make adjustments given the pandemic. We don't anticipate doing that for this group because we'd like you to look ahead and make any necessary adjustments now and adjust to the new reality moving forward. Can we increase the amount of the grant? Unfortunately, no. You need to work within the amount that you've been awarded, that the contracted amount, and that's what that's the amount that you asked for in your proposal. So that's the amount that we're sticking with. Can we change our project? Yes, yes, yes. I talked a little bit about this already. You can change your project. Do that. Don't do it without consulting us. But anything that remains within the goal of the project that you proposed and is within the budget that you were awarded can be changed. Often that requires a budget reallocation, and that's where those budget revisions come in. So another teaser for the 3 o'clock Eastern time webinar. Can we use funds for things not in the budget? Only if you get a budget revision, an approved budget revision for them. And in that case, they will need to be approved. And they will need to be part of the original goal. Can we receive the second half of the funds before submitting the mid-year report? Sounded like a broken record. No. We've contracted with you that we get the mid-year report and approve it before you get the second half of the funds. There's sort of an accountability structure there. We do know that on occasion, the first half of a grant year might just cost more money than the second half. And in those situations, it's up to you to find ways to sort of like borrow from the church and reimburse when the second check comes in. But let this also be a motivation for you to submit your mid-year report on time and to use that budget form, because if we get your report but it's not on the budget form, we're going to come back to you and say, make sure you put this on the budget form before we can approve your report. So you can speed that process along by turning it in on time and by using the correct form. All right. For the rest of the time, I'm just going to walk through the touch points of the year. So a lot of this is stuff you've heard from me already, a bit of repetition, but I really want to emphasize those, the most important points. So mid-year report is due. If I had you on the room, I would say, when is it due? And you would say December 1, 2020. You fill that out in the grant management system. Update your budget with expenditures at the time of reporting. So if you submit it December 1, your expenditures as of December 1. And upload the budget on CICW budget form in the grant management system. I'm like really repeating this over and over again because it's one of the things that we have a hard time with. Continue to communicate and collaborate. Always reach us at worshipgrants@calvin.edu. Throughout the year, request advertising approval as needed, request budget revisions as needed. Take photos for your poster. You will see posters for the 2019 Worshiping Communities grants tomorrow at the Learning Roundtables. While you're looking at those and observing those, and you actually receive them already as a PDF, keep in mind that you're going to be creating and submitting a poster next year. So you're going to want to be taking pictures throughout your year, pictures that represent well what you've been doing, this is a great thing to delegate to someone in your congregation, because I find that when I am leading something, I am more concerned about the details than about taking pictures. I just totally forget to take pictures. So select pictures. Someone with an Instagram account maybe. To take pictures at the events, and then they can give them to you, and you'll have documentation, which you'll probably be happy about, and you'll be able to have a good pool of pictures to use to select from for your poster. And I'm going to show you in a minute where you can find that poster. Review your own timeline. Actually, I think it's likely that a lot of your timelines are going to change, because you're going to need to make adjustments, but just make sure you stay on track. And as soon as something's done, look ahead to the next thing. We hear a lot from project directors that the year goes really quickly. Like, you think you're just starting, and then you're halfway, and then you think you just, finally just got started, and then you're done. It just goes really quickly. So keep your timeline in front of you. Maybe put it, on the wall of your office or something. Just keep it in front of you. All right, prepare for the second grants event. Second one-page summary will be due May 10th, the poster due May 21, and then if we gather in person, you'll fill out the grants event travel form. I think this is where I want to show you where you're going to find information about that poster. So let me find my internet here. I'm going to pop over to, okay, this is the CICW the CICW Worshiping Communities webpage. You can find that from any one of our pages. There's this button right here that says grants. And then when you click on that, you can go to any of these pages. So this is the Worshiping Communities page. And there's some good information for you to consult throughout on this right-hand side here. But what I particularly want to show you is this grants event preparation page. This just reminds you of some of the due dates, and then you do have to scroll to the bottom, but you have some instructions for creating a poster, and then these are poster templates that you can just download. And you'll see a lot of different templates were used in the 2019s. If you want a simple template for the different, with just a solid color on the back, you can choose one of these. If you want to put your own photo in, you can choose this one. And you just have to click on it, and you can see it downloaded here. I'm not going to open it. Well, maybe I should. I'm going to open it, and then I'm going to have to switch my screen. Here it is. So it just tells you what to insert, and it gives you instructions. So we try to make this really user-friendly. All right, I'm going to head back to my PowerPoint now. I have to find my spot. Actually, I think I was really just at the end. I don't want you to forget the second grants event, which is June 22 through 24. Mark your calendar. Don't forget that your final report is due July 15. Also, in the grant management system, use the CICW budget form. Now, send unspent funds back to us. When you submit your final budget, if there is a balance of unspent funds, you will need to send those back to us. If it's a small amount, I'm going to encourage you to find a way to spend it. Buy some books for your grants team or your church library. We are all for celebration. So like a final dinner that celebrates the learning and gathers the learning. Those are great ways to use, just an extra couple $100. But if you don't use that and you don't document it in your, or if you do that, but you just make sure it's all in your budget form. But if there are unspent funds, you'll need to send those back to us, and we put those back in the pool and use that to fund next, another pool of grants in the future. All right, let me answer your question. So I've sort of been keeping an eye on this Q&A and answering things a little bit here and there. Okay, so should we have received our first round of funding by now? Yes. So that's a little tricky because some of you submitted a direct deposit form, and that's nice because we can just, drop it right in your bank account. But if you, if we sent you a check, maybe it's at your church or your organization. But if you can't find your funds, send us an email, worshipgrants@calvin.edu. We want you to have your money. Oh, Cindy, you put the link in there. Okay, so the link is in the link to the Founding Grant Management System is in the Q&A. So take that, put it in your browser and bookmark it right now. Can we use funds from the first half and the second half in case the majority of costs will come in 2021? Yes, you get the first half automatically. In fact, you should have it. You hopefully have it or are getting it. And it's actually quite common for the bulk of the expenditures, or more than 50% of the expenditures, to occur in the second half. So you can just hold that in your bank account and use it in the second half. That's not a big deal. Do we have to use a pre-made template? You know what? No one has ever asked me that before. That's surprising. Maybe they haven't, I forgot. So you can see that the templates are PowerPoint slides. It's just a PowerPoint slide. So actually the best thing to do would be to download the blank one, and because it's set to the right sizes, so that when we print them, it's already, because when we print them, they're like nice and big. Just download the blank one, the blank template, and put things in as you see fit. I hope that answers your question. Feel free to email us if that doesn't answer your question. Am I still screen sharing here? I don't think so. All right. Ooh. Do photos for the poster need to be a certain resolution? Probably. We do find that sometimes the photos are just not great. But most of the time, like even just iPhone photos are usually fine. But let me write that one down and ask our graphic designer just to be sure. If there's like a certain number she gives me, I'll pop it into that web page so that everybody can access that. I am still screen sharing. Stop share. There it is. Hi. All right, back to my Q&A. It doesn't hurt. Can we submit our mid-year report early and get the second half of our funds earlier? It doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't hurt to ask. Brilliant question. I want to say yes, but I also want to acknowledge our capacity as a grants team in that, we're not checking every day to see if somebody submitted a mid-year report. So you can do it early, but probably not earlier than like November 1. I think that would maybe be the earliest. So I'm not giving you a real clear answer on that. Yes, but not too early. I'm gonna waffle on that one. Will the posters be shared beyond CICW staff? Yes, they will. The posters get posted, or we put JPEGs, I think, of the posters on our website. Here, I can show you. This is the great thing about screen share. And so you do need permit. You need you need to sort of toe gently around, yeah, pictures of minors and pictures of vulnerable people, because that, yeah, getting permission from people before posting them is good. So here I'm on the grants page. I'm going to go to this current grants page. And all right, this is all you guys. Look at this. Your grants are all listed here. But what I want to do is show you. Okay, I'm going to look at the year 2019. Oh, I'm not on the right page. You're right. I see. I did it in the wrong spot. Here it is. All right. Let me show you again. This is grants, current and past grants. This is all you, your 2020s. And this, I can look at the year 2019s. Oh no, 2019s probably are not yet. I'm going to 2018s. All right, All Angels Church. Let's look at this one. You can see their poster is posted right here. So that's where they'll be posted. It's not like, the front and center of our webpage, but they're there. So yes, you will need to get permission from minors. And there are plenty of high schools who have done this. So you could ask them the ways that they do it. Like Julia Vanderveen, I don't think you're on this one right now, but from Vancouver Christian High School, she's had a grant before. So maybe we could ask her sort of how she navigates that. I think it's mostly getting permission. Okay, I think I've answered all the questions that are in the Q&A. So this is your last, oh, and I'm over time. Oh, I'm so sorry. I value your time, and I thank you for joining us. If you have further questions, you can put them in. I'll hang out here for a minute or two, but worshipgrants@calvin.edu is always a great way to ask us a question. We try to be pretty good about responding to those within 24 hours. All right, blessings to you. The next session is the budget revision at 3 o'clock Eastern time. So that's about 20 minutes. So, go get your afternoon cup of coffee, or maybe, if you're in California, you're getting ready for lunch or something, but you have about 20 minutes. So thanks so much.